record. There we go.
Some beautiful pieces there, Oscar.
Yeah, Oscar's a collector.
Is he?
Yeah,
Does he have any berries?
yeah.
Well, that's a good answer. Yeah. Everybody answer yes to that when the time comes.
No, he does. I mean, he posted a picture of it at some point.
Yeah, this one.
Oh,
Okay.
nice. Different finish type. Is that kind of the finish that it's on all of his pieces?
Yeah,
Okay.
Raku.
yeah, it's Raku.
Raku. Cool.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, he was going to be photographing pieces yesterday and today to send me images to edit.
Oh, nice. How's everything out there in was it San Diego, Katie? You doing good?
Well, probably down in San Diego from you, unless you're in San Ysidro or Texas or something.
Yeah, good air conditioning.
It's set at 77 and it feels cool when you come in from outside.
Cool.
However, our excess heat warning ended last night. The deserts are down to only 100 today.
Well, it is the desert and it is August, so
Yeah, well, that we get 4 weather reports every day for San Diego.
wow. So real quick,
Coast
what's the vegetation in the picture in your background? What is that?
My backyard. It's an orange tree and bananas.
Wow, kind of nice.
I didn't have bananas this year. I think all the rain helped the plants decide that, hey, I think we can live here.
Yeah.
Maybe the size of the picture gives the optical illusion that they're pumpkin-sized orange.
Yeah, I was going to say that too. They look like pumpkins.
Well, that's why I asked you. Like, geez, those are.
The whatever for putting a background thing doesn't let you edit it down.
So when do the bananas come in to become ripe enough to eat?
You just watch them until they start looking yellow, I guess. They're really good when you pick them when they're yellowing on the stem there.
Yeah.
I would imagine. I've never had a fresh picked banana.
No.
These are the same ones as the commercial ones. So I think this was from whatever the last commercial one was that got wiped out by a fungus or something. And
Okay,
now,
so I have a question. Wait, let me ask Oscar something. Oscar was uptown this past weekend.
Yeah,
did you
Did
do
you
that?
do it?
yes.
You want to
Uh-oh.
let us know?
But
How was it?
A scale of 1 to 10, where would you put it?
you know, cuando said this tax for way, the show, I have a really bad spot. And for having a really bad spot, I did good.
Where is your space?
Beyond the mall?
Was in Hennepin, but it was almost to 31st Street. So basically, I was the second booth after the food trucks. Then you have 6 artists, if I'm not mistaken, after me. Then you got a bunch of commercial booths, probably 10 or 12. And then you got more artists. So if you was coming from Lake Street, you want to go all the way to my end because you would think there's all commercial. If you didn't have food, didn't want to eat any of that food in the trucks, you will not go that far anyhow.
What do you mean commercial?
Like a
Sponsors booth.
sponsor, call it sponsors or whatever you want to call it.
Okay, well, because commercial means like Walmart or something is there.
Well, that's what they are. There's probably selling like roofing or screen windows or something.
Okay, but not like imported art.
No.
No. So
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
and the next street over, it was more artists, but they put a place that sell marijuana, and it was playing music, all kind of weird music.
Hey,
Totally
I would have liked to set up a food booth in front of the marijuana dispensary.
That was the other thing.
I
So
don't know, somebody who's high could find art appealing that he wouldn't in their other circumstances, so.
Peter,
know,
Matt,
Yeah, I agree.
I think if you was not in the 200 section or the Hennepin, or you were not in the first section of the mall, you are in no man's land. Basically, you don't know what to expect. I got a lot of people was complaining about. In general, some people was it's different for everybody, but there was people that make $5,000 that was upset about it. There was people that make $3,000 that was upset about it. There was people that make $7,000 and they was upset about it. There was people that did zero and was like that happens. So
Was it well attended?
it was well attended Saturday, but it rained on Sunday all day long. And luckily for us, we were, let's call it the eye of the storm. So we didn't get rain, but everything around us got soaked.
Yeah.
So
Away.
Well, you know, they say the forecast is always worse than the weather.
yeah. So
Did,
it was,
did you
you
see a
know,
lot of people walking by having bought art?
I cannot tell you because the only people that I saw in my section was the people that parked by me. So I didn't get to see the full scope of the show, and I couldn't walk far away to see how the show was or I don't basically opposite what people say when I walk away just to go to the porta potty or grab a cup of coffee. It has to be in
Okay.
short distance.
Right.
So you've been doing Uptown for quite a few years?
Yeah. And
Would
the
you-
area, it looks really nice. It's nothing. I feel more comfortable this year than last year. It looks like looks really good. The only thing that they have no going for them right now, that they don't have any major retail store in the area, but the area looks amazing. It looks, I would say, maybe a step down from Lincoln Park over here, but you got more homeless over there, but other than that,
do you get to choose your booth in any way?
what?
You didn't get to select where your booth would be?
You can select an area. They give you choices of 8 sections, but you don't have no control.
Within it?
They're going to let you have. They could have easily put me in the 200. They can easily put me in the 300. They could have put me in the 100.
So
No
when you get jury back in, are they any, how are they about giving you back? If you ask for the same booth spot you had last year, do they usually do that?
Not really.
Wow.
Not really.
Well, it's different from when I used to do it.
Yeah.
We always had the same spot.
Yeah, if you ask for it, but
Yeah, but that was,
Hennepin was always the one that was hard to, from my experience, was always the street that was hard to get onto. And the first
Right.
block of the mall was hard to get onto.
yeah, I was in the first block of the mall,
Oh, yeah, that's
but
good.
that was 25 years ago. And Barry would laugh at me if I said that.
Oscar didn't like his spot, so, he'd want to be able to get something else, I would think.
Hey, I did the show before Cindy became the director. Because she bought photographs from me before she became the director at Uptown.
I don't think that the director's doing a bad job or anything like that. I think they're considering she having a lot of problems with the city, and there's a lot of things going on that it's making putting the event harder and harder and harder.
What's the name of the restaurant directly across the street from the library there?
Oh, they're all gone.
Oh, really?
The only place that's still standing is the Thai place. Everything else is gone or is new.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
it's
last
funny.
year I did the show, I was set up. I had a great corner spot right in front of that restaurant, and behind that restaurant was that big parking lot, so I was able to park right there.
Everything is gone.
Okay,
But what's kind of strange to me with the way promoters approach that is for us, for a business aspect of it, people get used to seeing us when they buy from us, where we are in that show. And if we can get back in that same spot, then we can start building our clientele base because they know where to come see us. If they want to come back and buy another piece, if they move you to a different block or farther away, that's
or you
harder
get
to do, isn't it?
rejected.
Yeah, well, if you get rejected, yeah, all bets are off on that baby. But if you
Yeah,
come
but-
back,
So
it would-
what do you do if you get rejected for 2 years, then, after third year, you get back in, do you bump somebody else that's been in your spot for 2 years?
No, I don't think so. Myself, I would say, because if that artist that was in your spot comes back, that's their spot. You get
Yeah.
another spot.
Mount Gretna was always good about that. I would do the show. I did the show for a couple of years. I had the same spot on the road. And I stopped doing the show and then went back a couple of years later and she gave me the same spot again. Without me even asking.
Well, I was lucky. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because also, I think there's the factor that a lot of times award winners get a choice of booth spots. And actually, Mount Gretna, that happened. The first year I did it, I had an absolutely terrible spot inside the park. Rained, flooded, it was abysmal. But I won an award. So the next year I chose at an intersection on the street. It was a beautiful spot, did really great. Well, the next year, another artist saw how successful I was at that corner. He won an award and he bumped me. So that's kind of the way it works sometimes.
That happened Madison, Wisconsin.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the first year I did the show, I got the corner spot on whatever that street is coming up from the lake. And it was a great spot. We had a killer show. I found out a year later that Bill Coleman had that spot, but didn't get in the year I got the spot.
So did he bump you when he came back in?
Yeah.
That's what Court was saying. Yeah. Asking about. Yeah, how did you feel about that when that happened?
You don't have there's nothing to say. Bill was a friend of mine too.
But do you think that's
that's fair?
Do you think that's appropriate?
Well, it depends on how long Bill had that spot. Knowing Bill, he probably had that spot forever. And he probably chose not to do the show that year. He probably got accepted, but did a different show. He was like that.
There were back then there were like 5 big shows on that same weekend. Krazel, Kane Park, Madison, I think
Right.
Pennsylvania
before,
used to be there.
State College, the week before Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you get, like the case I have at the plaza? They put me, I had a shitty booth location. They stuck me back in the same shitty booth location, even though I asked not to be there twice.
Well, the only thing I can think of on that is prior to coming before you leave to go to the show or when you get there, ask them if there's been any cancellation that could give you a different spot.
Before they give away the no-show spaces.
Yeah, exactly. Because there probably will be some no-shows, and maybe even approach them ahead of time and just say, look, given how bad that's—
I already have. I sent an email 3 weeks before the booth assignments came out. After the day after the booth assignments came out, the day the booth assignments came out, they came out on a Friday.
Okay.
I sent an email. I didn't check my email. I was doing something Friday during the day. I didn't check my email till that evening. I sent an email that evening and I called Monday morning.
And respond at all with anything or?
Yeah, give me a couple weeks. Well, it's been 2 weeks and I haven't heard from them. So I sent another email yesterday. It's been 2 weeks. What's going on?
Yeah.
I was a little more polite than that, but
and basically from what you're saying, if the booth spot was that bad, almost any other option would be worth trying, correct?
Well, there's probably 40 booths that are at least 40 booths that are going to be just as bad.
Oh,
You know,
How
the
many
booths
booths
are
are
back to
there?
back, and you know, I guess the ones not facing the stage might be a little bit better, but you know,
How many
moving
booths
down
are there how many booths totally are there?
Which show is this? The Plaza?
200 Plaza,
How much? How many?
about 200,
Not 300?
200. I think there's
Okay.
200.
So one out of every 5 booths is a stinker. Did you say that those 40 booths face the music?
Well, there is one whole 60% of the 40% of the show is on the street. Of that 40%, half of those booths face the stage. The other half are, you know, face the other way. The booths are back to back.
Oh. So
That's
they can hear it. Even though they're not facing it, they can the music is coming full blast at them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that's
hate
like-
that.
that's like
God.
Three Rivers. If you were in that park area by the stage, that was horrible to be there. You
Yeah,
wanted,
it doesn't exist anymore.
I
but
hate
it did, and it was terrible. You wanted to
So-
get out of there and get on the plaza.
And then I thought this was funny. They sent out hotel information today, and they sent out a hotel that's going to give you a 50% discount. And their rooms are between $770 and $850 a night. But you get a 50% discount.
God,
So,
Wait a minute. Is
who-
that
who
the
the-
50%? Is $800 the 50% discount, or
You get-
it's now 400?
it's now 400.
Yeah, they're really doing you a favor there, aren't they?
Yeah. The other stuff is 100. The cheapest of their hotels is 165.
Well, are any of you guys finding that the discounts from all the different kinds of motel discount places, are they working at all these days, or are they pretty dead? Like
Well-
TripAdvisor, Priceline, all those kinds of places.
I haven't looked at any of those because, let's see. Oklahoma City, I went with an extended stay because I was going to be
Yeah.
there for a week.
How much was that?
The extended stay was like $350, $360 for the week.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And I wouldn't recommend that chain because it was horrible. Filthy and just nasty.
You know, the problem with that change is it's a hit or miss. It's like I think if you're going to go low end, you're better off gambling with Motel 6 because most of the time they're clean. They might be not dated, but every other change you taking it's a gamble.
You know,
Well, I've stayed at Woodspring Suites before, which is another extended stay. And they're consistent, they're clean, they're consistent, but they are bare bones. There's no carpet in the room. You know, I always take my towel because the towels and the sheets are just like as cheap as I can possibly get.
Sandpaper.
is it tile?
Yeah, the floor's tile.
Yeah, no carpet tile.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be cement, it could be cinder blocks, you know, it could be, they just didn't bother to put anything down. It could be work. Yeah.
And Tulsa, in Tulsa, you couldn't find a hotel. Well, in Tulsa, there was a LIV golf tournament that weekend. So every hotel in town, no matter where you went, had prices jacked up almost double normal.
But it
So
seems somewhat consistent when promoters send out emails saying, you know, we talking about hotels or whatever that they tried to find for us, that they're always more expensive than most of the discount places. And
I found it to be a real mixed bag.
yeah,
And what I always do is I always go in because, you know, I'm not traveling enough anymore to have a lot of points, but I do have, you know, membership in their rewards clubs. So I always go in and look at the hotel website and see what I can get without the discount.
Or with the shows with the hotels discount.
Yeah.
You do that first, so you know the base price, and then go like I use Priceline. And sometimes the hotel gives a cheaper rate than the Priceline.
Seriously. Well, is
I
that,
avoid,
They're all the same. I mean that just means that hotel is less than any, hotel.com. I mean they're all Expedia. The price, those prices are pretty much all the same. I just happen to use Priceline, and they give you an extra percentage off.
now see, I try and avoid those. Because if there's a problem with your hotel, you can't deal with the hotel directly. You
Yeah.
have to go back through them, and that can
That's
be a real
right.
pain.
Yes, that's true. I've had that experience once, but they actually rectified the situation.
So
Getting back to the web, getting back to the booth site. First of all, that would really upset me. It's a dilemma because you want to do it anyway, even if they give you a bad booth space because it's Kansas City. No,
nope.
Was it really bad? Because everybody I talked to that did Kansas City said it was fantastic.
I did half the dollars
That you would
and
normally
when
do?
I was near the stage as opposed to when I was on the other street.
Really?
I've talked to other artists who have made the same comment. They did half the sales over by the stage on Ward Parkway than they do on Nichols.
Here's the thing. They probably read their own press reports and plant themselves on the back and get an attitude like, hey, these are the spaces. They don't like it. Well, 10 people will fill that space, which is that's a bad attitude. The attitude should always be for the artist. Let's see how we can make it better for the artist.
Well,
And to have that other approach, and because there's not that many great shows. So if you get into that show, you want to do it no matter what. I mean, was half still better than normal?
well,
no,
but I think the thing
no.
too is that you're going down the right path. Is that if it's bad for the artist, it's bad for the patrons. Because if the patrons come there to buy art and the music's so loud, they don't even want to go to those booths.
You know what? It's actually that's true, and it's actually the other way around. If it's bad for the patrons, it's bad for the artist.
Exactly.
If it's bad for the patrons, is if you're not selling to them or you're selling half, they obviously don't want to go there.
That's right.
It's annoying. So
Well, no, that's not true. In the case of the plaza, the people running the show changed this year. It used to be run by the Merchants Association.
yeah,
They passed it off to an event company. Or they probably hired an event company to put it on.
So is
yeah,
that
that's
why
a kiss of death.
So is that why you think you're not hearing from them as far as the booth location?
No, I didn't when I got that booth the last time I did that show, I was in a very similar location, and the plaza wasn't. The people from the Merchants Association weren't responsive either. They know it's a bad location.
And do you think that going forward with this new events thing, do you have any feel for at this point whether they're going to change that music booth layout situation so that those?
I think. Well, here's the thing. The plaza has a lot of restaurants and bars. Most of them have booths in the street.
Okay.
They sell a shitload of booze that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Music sells booze.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the music's there. That's why it's not going anywhere. That's not why they're not going to do anything about it. I'm there for a weekend. The restaurants are there year round. Who do you think's going to win?
Depends if they're smart or not.
Yeah.
If they're smart, they take care of you, court, first, because that'll pay for that'll more than make up for. I mean, that'll sell more. They'll be more successful if they take care of the artists. It
So
seems to me
Barry,
in every case that's the case.
Barry, did you ever read science fiction? Do you remember As It Gets Amongst the Gods Themselves?
Never read it.
Okay, well the title comes from, I don't know where he found it, but there's some classic epigram Against stupidity,
The gods themselves contend in vain.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
But and Barry, like you said, it's the plaza, and they know. They know that
Oscar,
if I don't
turn
do
off
it,
your phone.
Yeah, trying to.
if I don't do it, they'll have 20
Finally
people
got the
lined up
computer
for
to
my
work.
spot.
Yeah, that's a drag, including me, because it's the only show I never get into.
And it was so bad. This is the first time I've applied since since I was in that booth spot. And
Do
that
any
was
other
like,
of the shows like Cherry Creek or Main Street Fort Worth or Lakefront do things like this where they mix so closely music and art to where they become the music becomes detrimental to the art? Because a music show draws a different crowd than an art show does. And
Yeah.
to hope that to put booths where people are going to go stand listen to music,
You-
it doesn't make any sense.
You to answer that question, it's by show basis because of where they put the music. Like there's music at let's take Des Moines, but it's unobtrusive. It's in its own location.
It's
It's
separate.
not near the artist. Okay. Same. Well, I can't speak for Main Street because I'm always as far away from the music as possible. I'm at the other end, so I don't hear any of that. So I don't know about what it's like for the people that are towards the stage. I don't know, but I've never heard any complaints, so it can't be bad. Um, most good shows think about that. Most well-run shows, I wouldn't say good, but attention to detail shows, you don't get that. The one exception, well, besides the Plaza, Winter Park, that was an interesting dilemma the last time I went there because the music was right, towards me. I wasn't actually that close to it, but the stage was pointed right. The speakers were pointed right at me, and and then they, it started out low, and then the volume kept cranking up, and I kept complaining. And I had heard that if you complain, they put you on a list and you never get invited back. So, and that actually was the case, but I don't care. I can do without. Well, I wouldn't be able to do without Cherry Creek, but I could do without Winter Park, and and I haven't applied since then. Oklahoma City. I want to talk about Oklahoma City for a minute. They it was there was a COVID year, so they had spaces, and I had my space, and I knew it was a horrible space because I'd done it for 7 or 8 years in a row. So I quickly complained and said, "Well, you got all this time, you could move me." Well, then they canceled the show that year, so they had an extra year. So there was a whole year where they could have moved me, and I sent them messages like every few months because I hadn't heard from them. I said, "Well, remember, you move me because people are not going to come back." Blah blah blah. They didn't move me, so I get there and I go see the space, and I'm going, I'm not setting it there. I might as well just turn around and go home. So you know, unfortunately, if you just complain or you just tell them, you got to move me, they don't listen. So I had to be more vociferous about it, and they actually did move me. But why do I have to go through that? I'm loyal. I did the show for 8 years in a row or whatever, so I'm a loyal supporter of their show. I've actually made comments online saying it was my favorite show because at one time it kind of was, but they didn't reward any of that. It didn't matter. I was like, "Oh, we know about you." Oh, yeah, right. You mean I say things to make the show better? That you give us suggestions to make it better, or I know where I want to be, where I don't want to be. That's a problem. So I don't go back. And they have a problem there because if you notice this year, they cut, or for the next year, they cut, it's now 4 days and not 2 days. Did you guys notice that?
yeah.
It's a 4 day show. It's not a 6 day show. And the times. Oh, and there's no 8 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning where you have to be out there for nobody. So they know they have a problem, you know.
Did they ask the artist about shortening the show, or did?
Well, they do, but it's just lip service.
they got a rude awakening the last couple of years, and that they've had, I think their applications are down, and they have not had the quality of applications they've had in the past.
Yeah, I heard that also.
Well, so let me ask you guys then, if a show is considering shortening its length, be it Oklahoma City 6 to 4, or a show like Central Pennsylvania is now ask the artist if they should shorten the show. Should they be asking the artist, or should they be asking the patrons?
You know, you and I have this running thing, and I am totally not for asking the patrons. Ask the artist, you know, take care of the artist. The patrons live there. They can get up in the morning, take a shower, eat something, and come over to the show.
No, but they don't. They don't all do that. Central Pennsylvania being a case in point. There's so many people that come to that show from all over the place. They rent hotels. They come in from a distance, and now if they lose a day, it seems like it makes it harder for them to do it, especially like with Ann Arbor having lost a Sunday. If the only time they get off work is the weekend, now they only have one day to make it.
I have to correct you. The show was never on Sunday. It was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Always, historically?
Always, yeah. And they cut out Wednesday, but made Saturday. They made Saturday till 8 o'clock instead of 5, which you know, I'm sitting around with people that, you know, all of us have done the show for 30 years, and somebody brought it up, and nobody realized it. None of us looked at the prospectus because, oh, you know, we've done it for so long, it's just till 5 o'clock. And that was kind of a funny moment when we figured out, oh, we're gonna be here till 8 o'clock, and I gotta break down in the dark. So it was kind of funny.
So you're saying that's the artist, not the patrons.
Listen, you get the better artists, you get the better patrons. It's not the other. Well, actually, it could be the other way, right? You get the better patrons, then you get the artists. But listen, if you get the better patrons first, and they come and they see a bunch of crap, they're not going to come back. So, I think the deciding factor is the best quality artwork. And please the artists, and the rest follows.
How's everybody else feel about that? Anybody else have? Does anybody else have thoughts on that too? On this, what we're talking about?
If the higher end buyers aren't there, higher end artists aren't going to bring them in, unless those artists already have established
mailing lists,
buyers in that area.
Well, you know, there's also word of mouth. I mean, we have word of mouth, and I think the patrons have word of mouth too. You know, somebody buys a really nice painting or a piece of clay or one of Oscar's photographs, and they have friends over, and they go, "Oh, where'd you get that?" You know, and then they tell them. So then they go, "Oh, well, we're going to go there next year." You know. So I think there's some of that. If somebody bought something and their friends come over and it's really atrocious, and they go, "Where'd you get that?" but not revealing how they really feel, and it's a bunch of junk, they're gonna go, "Oh, did you see?" When they go home, they go, "Did you see that?" You said, "Crap, we're not going back. We're not going there. Look at, you know." Look what they bought.
I don't think it works exactly like that, Barry, because they're your friends, but they may have bad taste. So you don't blame the show for the fact that one patron bought bad art.
Yeah, I just made it up. I said that on the fly.
But see, I don't understand if the show is longer, why artists want to turn away. Yes, it's more expensive to stay there and do it for an extra day, or in the case of Oklahoma City, 2 extra days. But overall, if the show produces for you, be it Main Street Fort Worth, which I think is a 4-day show, correct? No, why if artists want the show shortened, and I remember the first year Ohio Designer Craftsman Winter Fair shortened. The next year they got hit by a blizzard and they lost a day and a half of the show. Second year that the Columbus Arts Festival downtown shortened to a 3-day show, they got hit by bad storms and they lost almost a day and a half of the show. if artists want the show shortened so they don't spend as much in expenses and the show doesn't produce as well, what are they going to do? The artists are going to leave the show. So what did the show accomplish by doing that? Plus, if the patrons have less time to come to the show, how does that not affect sales?
I have the academic version answer to that, because I took econ classes in college, and that actually came up. They were talking about if you have a business and you have, how do you determine like extended hours? Let's say you want to extend hours. Let's say you're to 6 o'clock and you want to open till 9. So how do you determine whether it's profitable to have those 3 hours? The answer is you determine how much it's going to cost you for those 3 hours, or in our case, how much it's going to cost you to be there an extra day. So let's say it's $100 for the hotel room and you got food. Let's say you're going to spend $30 on food. So that's $130. So the point where you make the determination to stay there is if it's 100, all you have to do is $130 and you break even. So it's risk reward. You're risking $130, but maybe you'll do it $1,300. So that's that's the determination in that I got from my econ class. Shut up.
But that seems to argue to keep the show longer, because again, like you're saying, if you cost you $200 extra to do the extra day, but you make $800 or $1,000 or $2,000 on that day, the only way that makes sense then to shorten it is that all those people will have the flexibility in their schedules to come on the other days of the week, because if they don't, those sales are gone. And I remember, and this is just my experience, but when I did Columbus, the first year I did Columbus Art Festival, my sales were equal Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if I gave up Thursday, the only way I would have hoped to have made that money was that those people had the flexibility in their schedules to come. Yeah. And how many of the people that bought from me on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday came on Thursday and looked at the work and then came back and bought? Same with Oklahoma City. Because yes, the sales tend to be strongest on the weekend, but how much of that is people looking during the week, coming down, seeing what's there, and then coming back and buying? Does everybody in the patron class have flexibility to change when they're going to come to the show if it's shortened? And I don't think they do. I think it's a
but they're more likely to have flexibility. They're less likely to have flexibility on the weekdays if they have jobs.
Jobs, right.
So
your only hope is that they can do it on the weekends, right?
Right. So if you have 4 days, Thursday through Sunday, and you take Thursday out, that probably doesn't have that huge an impact.
Actually, at Ann Arbor, that's not true.
It does.
Okay.
Let me just put it. First of all, this doesn't matter. Ann Arbor is a different, but in general, if the shows for most people think that they end by 5 or 6, because most people leave for dinner and they might not come back, most likely to pick up something. So by you spending extra hours doesn't make any sense. If you cut the days, there are less traffic, because Oklahoma knows how many people are coming per day. They have a good judgment to cut the hours down. There's some days that the traffic is not worth to be there, even for them. Also, if you're going more into what Barry was saying is, and I got to say what Will Armstrong say is like I'd rather spend a day producing work at home than wasting my time just to break even.
Well, then don't go to the show.
You don't
Why
know
argue
that.
to shorten the show?
No. You're missing the point. If you short the hours for the show, it's better, because you don't know it's a day that most likely you don't want to sell anything. It's a waste of your time.
I just don't think that works that way. On longer shows, have you had that experience where you have 0 days or really bad days? on 4-day shows or
Yeah, I
Oklahoma
can tell you, Ann Arbor Saturday for me is a waste of my time.
Saturday?
Saturday is a waste of my time.
Okay, and there is no Sunday at Ann Arbor, so you've got to make your sales on the weekdays.
Yeah.
So
So
the day that most shows would cut would be weekdays. So
well, that's what I said. Ann Arbor's not the same thing than everybody else. It's a different monster. Now, if you're talking about like this weekend in Uptown, if they cut off Friday, it will be totally fine with me. Because it doesn't make any difference in my sales. If I make the buffet that day, I'm lucky. I make all my money on Saturday and Sunday, but it depends what show you're talking about.
I
If
would
you-
also think there's a huge variation in incentives if the shows are selling tickets. If the shows are selling tickets, they have a very realistic understanding of what days the tickets sell. If it's a show where people can just walk in, then the incentives for the show company are different and the measurements are different and their understanding is different. So,
Quicker.
And then in the show that doesn't sell tickets, they base on the beer sales. How many beers are selling one day? Because most the little thing that some people don't know, some is like some shows, whatever the food vendors sell, they get a cut out of that. So
Yeah.
they know which day they're getting more traffic and which day they can do it. So they have a lot of ways to do it, but we just don't know all of that, those things.
but see, the only show to me that has an answer at all to this is Oklahoma City, because they collect the sales data. So if their data shows what we're talking about is if on Tuesday and Wednesday, people aren't coming to the show in any great quantity because there's no sales of note on those days, then to drop those 2 days makes more sense because they have the data to support it. Where's the data to support it? Because what we're talking about is just artists that, if the artists are the only ones being asked, we're just using our personal thing of like, well, I don't want to spend that much time, that much money, blah, blah, blah. And again, the option is don't apply to the show if it's a long show. There's a lot of artists that will do 3-day show, 4-day shows. It won't matter to them. They'd like to do it.
But that's not what you're asking, Ron. You ask if a show goes from 4 hours to 3 hours, 4 days to 3 days, then you have a problem with that. That's what you ask.
No, my problem is that who's supposed to be asked? The artist or the patrons? Because we said
patrons, from when I was working in retail and managing and out at the store, we used to open 10 a.m. and close at 9 a.m. 9 p.m.
Yeah.
7 hours in the store. The last 3 hours basically was the only thing that we did at that point. It was just production work. We had no customers walking into the store.
But
so
you
my
had
boss said,
you had the data. What you're saying is you have the data to make that decision because
Yes.
your store, you watched who came through the door, what sales you had the data to make that decision.
and I already told you that the shows already know when things to close down because they know the sell for beers, they know the sell for food, they know the sell for the lemonade, they know everything else, and those are the things that they manage. They know when to adjust it. You have to trust that they know. Also, the other thing that you're missing in all this is whatever the city wants to do. It has nothing to do with the promoter. If the city says you have to stay open to get the permit, you have to be open from 10 a.m. until 9 p.m. That's what the show is conducted to do. If the city says you're not going to be open on Sunday, you're not going on Sunday. They are the people that give the freaking permits to the shows.
Well,
So you have to do what the city says, and that's another layer thing that people don't look. We
Yeah.
don't look at.
but those are all negotiable things. If you run a show, you can go to the city and you can argue your point.
I agree.
Most
Yeah.
cities are not going to. If anything, shows are going to dictate. I doubt a city has rarely told a city a show they have to stay open until a certain time, and most likely the city's telling the shows you have to close by a certain time, not you have to stay open for a certain until.
That's
a certain
right.
time.
And then what the show pays the city is based on those decisions as to how late we're going to be open, how many days we're going to be open, et cetera, et cetera. But I agree with the court on that. That's
And also you have to think about what the businesses are deciding to do, because at the end of the day, like what Court said about the plaza, we only there for the weekend, they're there for the rest of the year. So the businesses.
So then is the
And-
reason that Ann Arbor isn't open on Sunday anymore because of the stores didn't want them open on Sunday?
Ann Arbor only had 2 weekends, 2 years that they try out the Sunday, and the business say no, and the city say no because they have to clean out the freaking mess.
Let
And
me,
they
well,
to clean out the.
there's more to it than that, but
I
the
don't
way-
think just cleanup is, there's a lot more to it
No.
than just cleaning
Well,
up.
The way-
just
Ron,
put
the
it
way-
that way.
Hey, I remember Ann Arbor went from 12 to 5 on the Sundays when they tried Sunday.
it was never on Sunday. You're talking
Yes,
about
it was.
Sunday.
No.
Never.
Oh,
Yes,
they
it
did
was.
Sunday. They did Sunday.
Yes.
They
12
never
Sunday,
did
and it was
Sunday.
12 to 5.
Nonsense.
It was
I've
too
been there for
short.
40 some years. They never were open, never did Sunday.
Yes,
did
It's always
Sunday.
Wednesday through Saturday.
They did
Always.
Sunday 2
50 years
they did
ago.
Sunday. When they went from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 2 years.
right.
And then they change it back to Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
When did they do that? I must not have done the show then.
That was just before. Well, that was before COVID, and that's what I was telling you.
Yeah,
I don't-
and the
I don't
Sunday
believe it.
was too short for it to be a good sales day. It was like a waste.
But see, okay, and in Arbor's case, if that's the case, then that would make sense. But how many shows in the top 50 in the United States are not open on Sunday? To me, Ann Arbor is a total exception on that, because every other show I know of or have done is open on Sunday.
Well, there's two reasons. In spite of what all you think, there's two reasons. One, the churches complained about being open on Sunday, and the other one is most of the stores are closed on Sunday, and they don't want to. They don't want to be open, which they would be forced to do, and that's the reason. It's a merchant show that has us there to draw in the customers so they can sell their old merchandise. I ran a store there. I know. Look at when you own a business, let's say you have like 6 stores across parts of Michigan, central Michigan. The hardest thing to do at retail is to get rid of the merchandise that doesn't sell. So and it accumulates from year to year. So you have a basement full of ungodly crap. Well, how do you get rid of it? Because getting a dollar for a $10 item is still better than having it sit in your storage area. It's taking up space and it's dead money. So if you can, what we did was we brought in all the stuff from the 7 stores that didn't sell, and we put it out, and we took anything, $2, $5, and we got rid of the stuff. And I've actually done it on the math that if you actually do that, you take a loss at all this stuff, but and you use those dollars to buy products that will turn over. You actually end up making money with that money, as opposed to if you're stubborn and you keep the price higher and you keep it in your basement for years. You're actually better off selling it at the discount or whatever you have to sell it at, $1, 50 cents. I mean,
Why is it that Ann Arbor is so unique on this and all these other shows are not?
Because it's one of the first shows in the country. It was never a show. It's a merchant sale. I'm telling you, it's totally different. The focus has always been totally different. I was there from the beginning. I'm telling you, it isn't like an art fair. It isn't a normal art fair.
But it's
Ann
known
Arbor.
as an art. It's known across the country as an art show. Like when I started doing shows back in '99, full time, I'd run into people from all over the country that wouldn't make
Ann Arbor.
major
Yes.
purchases until they went to Ann Arbor, which is an art show. They didn't go there because it was a merchant capital. They went there because it was an art show. And it was 4 days, and it was a fun thing for them to do. The hotels get lots of people going in and renting hotels. The restaurants have more people eating there. So why would any show, including Ann Arbor, but why would any show knowingly close down a day of the show that's been there what benefit is it to the show to do that other than saving
Yeah.
money because it doesn't cost them as much to rent the street from in the permitting process?
You know,
What else
I'm
is there?
laughing. I'm laughing because I've said this for years. Ann Arbor isn't Ann Arbor anymore. They're living off a reputation from 30 years ago. They're still living off a reputation from 30 years ago. For one thing, it used to be that everybody would go to the original show first, and those people would sell out on Wednesday. There were people that did the show every year, and they would sell out, and they were known people. And people would go there that collected. There was a doll maker that would make X amount of dolls and sell everything on Wednesday and go home. And if you did one of the other shows, which I went back and forth, but if like so, the next one over was State Street, the State Street show, and I was on North University, so you'd walk through they'd go there first, and then walk through the Diag and come over and do our street, and then sort of disseminate towards Main Street. And that was 35 years ago. And that's the way it was. But when the original show they had an argument with the South University merchants for some reason. I don't remember the story, but they either decided to leave or the merchants said, you're out of here. And so they moved in front of the dental school, that whole area over by Hill Auditorium and the dental school. And that's not a really good location based on the way it was or the way it is. And I have a picture. Jim Parker took a picture of the first day at 1:30 in the afternoon of the original show, and it was dead. This is maybe about 10 years ago. That's when at one time it was wall to wall people at the same time in the past. So that just tells me that that move, that location, was a mistake, that argument. So where do they go now? They actually come to Main Street first. It's a really weird mix because Main Street has some really good people and they have some god awful crap. And it's funny because it's all kind of mixed together. But that's where the business is. I mean, you got to put up with the beginners and the garbage. But that's where the business is. So you kind of endure some of that other stuff.
Hey, Barry,
Hey, Larry.
2016 and 17. Ann
Yeah.
Arbor was on Sunday.
Oh, really? It said that?
I found it online.
Shit, I was there. I was wrong. Oh
Yeah,
my
you were
God. I
wrong.
was
Oh my
wrong.
God! Send alarms are going off all over.
Hey, it's cool. I'm wrong a lot of times. It doesn't
See,
matter.
that's
I
what happens when you
apologize
are.
to anybody.
That's
But see, it
Hey,
would be
hey,
would it not
Barry?
be?
Was I
Did you-
there?
Did you lose your intelligence when you cut your hair?
What?
But
I don't remember what you just said.
Would it not be interesting to know why they moved it
Tony
to
Sampson?
include Sunday, and then why they moved it back? What was the process determined by? Because they're
I'd have to ask them.
regardless
And
that
A
when they went to being on
5-hour
Sunday,
day, a 5-hour day doesn't work with the
so they
volume
did
of
a
people they
12 to
got.
5, and it just didn't work.
It could be that there people were so used to 50 years of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday that they didn't even think about Sunday.
Right?
Was that
Yeah.
the only show of the 4 that changed its hours or dates?
No,
no, it's
they
all of
they
them.
make the decision all together. They get together. Even when they closed the show down this
Okay.
last time, which I thought was great. They were really on the ball this time, and I should write to Nicole and tell her how really on the ball I thought that was, because but you know what they do? They get together or they text each other or they talk and say, are we going to close? And they all do it in mass. Although, you know what? I kind of think that that 5 o'clock thing versus 8 o'clock thing. I think that the Guild closed at 5 in the past, and the other shows stayed open, and they might have pressured them to stay open till 8. I think that might have been the case. No, yes.
If you have a show that's open longer and there's one of 4 shows and one show is closes sooner, that's actually better for you in the evening. That,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, because there's still a lot of people and there's still, you know, there's still a lot of people exhibiting and a lot of people buying. So there's just less competition for those couple hours. So,
Yeah.
so some sort of gamesmanship on that
We're
it's
not
surprising that it wouldn't happen.
we're not privy to those decisions. So it's hard
No.
to tell. We can only speculate.
I only went to the Ann Arbor Art Fair once, and that was 15 years ago. Probably longer. But I know Ann Arbor well because I spent many years there as a college student. More than 4.
Yeah.
Well, what a lot of artists don't understand is whoever is putting on the show, they all have different goals. And, you know, Plaza is a lot like Ann Arbor. It's put on by the Merchants Association. And, you know, the reason for doing that is to bring people in to the stores in that area.
Yeah.
And so they're going to do things to bring people in for their businesses that are located there. Other shows like Cherry Creek aren't like that. So, you know, you have to look at each show and, you know, that determines the hours and that determines a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and all the bars in the plaza want the music. I mean, it's a drunk. It is literally being in that area on Friday night and Saturday night is like setting up your booth in a bar. And, you know, the bars that are selling booze in that area, they're going to raise hell
Yeah.
if that stage goes away.
Yeah,
They probably wouldn't give a shit if the artists go away, you know?
Yeah, sometimes I think that they don't need us, you know, just have the music in the bars, you know, nobody's gonna miss us. Just have a festival without any artists, you know.
And there's some cases I was reading somewhere that there may be with some grants that shows may be trying to get, music may be a requirement.
Really? Oh, well, yeah, maybe. Wells Street. That when I did it, it was a beer fest.
So, Court, could you say what you said just a moment ago? It may be a requirement. What was that in reference to?
Music may be a requirement for certain arts grants.
To include music at a festival that's going to get a grant?
Yes.
Well, you know, considering there's thousands of grants, there might be some that actually say that if it's music focused. So,
I don't know. I think it might have been I've been going through some stuff for NAI lately, and it may have been in there that I read that, but somewhere I read that there are grants that may require music, or you have a better chance of getting a grant if you're offering multiple kinds of art.
But if you don't have music and you're adding music, that's a considerable expense. So it'd have to be a very good grant.
Well, you know, if you look at like Oklahoma City has multiple stages, and they're not paying performers on all those stages. You know, they've got this dance school and that dance school, and, you know, school bands and college bands and things like that they're not paying.
Well, I mean, just having a stage and a temporary stage and amplifiers and electricity and lights is not a trivial expense.
No, it's not. But you look at
paying the musicians is considerably more, of course, but just simply the infrastructure for music is going to cost a fair amount. So,
but then it becomes becomes logistics then, doesn't it? Because it's like we were describing earlier, when Barry was talking about Des Moines. Des Moines sets the music apart. Other shows, like the Plaza, don't. So that seems, I mean, it's an issue as far as where can the music versus the art be? How many blocks are you taking up, et cetera, et cetera. It's not necessarily a simple thing to sit here and say, oh, that's doable. But it's part of the logistics of making the event work. And if you destroy part of the event, either the music or the art, by joining them incorrectly, you're failing at what you're trying to accomplish, which is an art festival of whatever kind you want to say it is, right?
In the case of the Plaza, they don't care. The other part of the show does so well that people are either one, willing to put up with the crap, or people are trying to get in the Plaza and want to do it so bad that, they'll put up with it. Or, it's like Oklahoma City and the hours. You can run off all the experienced artists, the top artists that are traveling nationally to a show. And, if you're in an area like Kansas City or Oklahoma City, you can still pull within a 4-hour drive, you can still pull enough people to put on a fairly decent show.
I would think also, as you're describing it, Court, that if there's a lot of people who want to have student performances on a stage in an event where there's going to attract attention, that they might even subsidize that part of the show, that they would ante up to make sure that the stages were available and properly staffed, so that they can show off their students to their parents, and then maybe attract the next generation of parents to put their kids in the schools.
Yeah.
Well, it also, when it comes to grants, it could be that the show is getting a grant specifically for those kind of performances.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see I'd like to see the bands have to apply to the show and pay a booth fee, and then put out their guitar cases for people to give them money. And if you think that's absurd, that's exactly what we do. Why is that different?
There was a time at a lot of art shows where that kind of did happen. There would be artists mixed in. There would be musicians mixed in with the artists in booths or at corners, intersections, but they didn't play loud rock and roll. They played quieter music, but they were integral to the art show. And that was kind of an interesting mix. Saw it a lot in Florida, some up in the northern states. I don't see that anymore. Does anybody else, or that pretty much disappeared?
I haven't been to the Bruce Museum show for a while, but they always had an acoustic guitarist with a little amp playing beautifully. But he was not obtrusive. He was very good and very pleasant, and I don't think it bothered any of the artists. I don't think it was a major distraction or a major I think he just was a mild enhancement.
Yeah.
Let's go down memory lane and
Mayfest
talk about
used to do that same thing, except they had one guy that was just obnoxious as hell, and because all he did was beat on plastic buckets and pots and pans.
Yeah,
plays the same thing for fucking hours.
Listen, what about the pan flute people that they drove everybody crazy, and they were at every show. And then what else? There was at one place there was a guy that played sitar, and he forgot to take a shower before he came there, and he was barefoot, and his feet were all black, and he sat and he played the sitar, on some, and that was annoying. You guys remember any other ones that are totally annoying that where they were?
In Tulsa, we had the same guy, and all he did, he was a professional busker, and he traveled from show to show like this.
Yeah. And certain shows have their own ambiance, their own weirdness. Like it seems to me in Columbus, they have the guys that they preach this crazy Christians crap. They stand on a piece of cardboard or a piece of on a block and tell everybody they're going to hell.
They get up on
and
their
if there was hell, the only person that's going to hell is the one that's standing on the block. But hey, that's That's irony.
Comic Con had those right
Right.
near the trolley stop, and they had it amplified. They had it looked like a karaoke amplifier mic.
Yeah. And was that near you?
No, that was near the trolley, which was across a big boulevard, but it was loud enough you could hear it.
Great.
Um,
Good to
Yeah,
see all of you. See you next week
See you later. Good to see you.
you're leaving already? You just got here.
already.
I'm gonna go take a nap.
Uh,
Oscar's fighting his cat for dinner.
It looks like ice cream, actually.
he's eating the cat food. One scoop for the cat and one scoop for him.
Yeah, like he is.
Okay, that's it. I'm going to eat my snack and you going out.
Oh,
Yeah, those cats are cute, Oscar.
Oh God. She was in the I let her walk in the morning outside in the patio. And she decided to walk to the neighbor's patio and lay down, take a sunbath in the patio of the neighbor. So now I need to keep an eye on her because she likes to walk out.
Yeah, but she doesn't go far, I bet.
Well, outside cats here are called coyote chow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So our new neighbor is building a catio up her. It's a sunroom. She has the outside
Catio.
cat can go out through the window into this. I thought she was building some sort of like greenhouse type thing, but she said, no, it's a catio.
That's why Gray gets to go outside during the day, but at night he gets put out.
It,
Well, the coyotes are out during the day sometimes too.
I don't have, she stays in my patio and my yard. It's not a big deal because it's all fenced out. But if she decides to walk outside the yard, that's the problem. So she was seeing how far she can get away today. Keep an eye on her. Oh my goodness.
Well,
So
I'm hoping I hear from the guy at Plaza soon because I don't like sitting here. I'm really kind of afraid to. I don't want to promote that I'm going to be at the plaza if I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
Well, Courtney's probably going to watch this video on YouTube, and you're going to be blackballed for expressing your opinion. And I'm just joking. I'm actually not.
Honestly, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was such a horrific experience the last time I did that show. I
Yeah.
didn't apply.
Yeah.
I mean, I went years without applying.
Yeah.
I was Mike Bose went out and bought earplugs.
Oh no, really?
Yeah, he was next to me. He went out and bought
Oh
earplugs.
man,
That's
I
how
would
bad it
hate
was.
that.
So, and I don't know how they decide. I mean, I don't know how they decide who gets on that street. I guess 60% of the artists there had more seniority than me for some reason.
Meanwhile,
I don't know what it would be like on that street down towards the ends,
yeah.
Away from the stage. But I have a decibel meter on my phone, and I look at it, and then I go over and look at a chart, and it says, prolonged exposure to this level leads to
Yeah.
hearing damage.
Yeah.
Plus, again, how many patrons are going to walk? If it's that bad for you as an artist in your booth, how many patrons are going to want to walk down and even look at your booth? Because
Oh, there were tons of people going by with drinks in their hands and going to stand in front of the stage and
the
listen
music,
to music.
but not the art, not
Yeah.
stop.
They came for the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does in going forward, does Naya foresee at all trying to work with promoters to educate them about understanding what they're doing when they do this kind of a layout?
The only thing we can do is put the information out there. If they want to read it and take the advice, fine. If they don't, my guess is, again, if this was not a show driven by local businesses, there's a chance of it changing. The fact that the plaza is driven by the local businesses, I don't see it changing. And, I'm not the only artist that I've talked to that has said they don't apply to the plaza anymore for this very reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's another show that has such a good reputation. It'll be 20 years before somebody goes, oh, people aren't coming here. It's, nobody's going to listen to, everybody thinks it's a good show. So they don't think about the music, interrupting your sales and making you go deaf.
And until you don't understand that until you've been in that location.
That's right.
And, they dump first-time artists down in there and, that don't know better. And they think, oh, I'm getting into the plaza. This is a big deal. And that they're going to tolerate it. And,
Mhm.
Sorry.
Hey,
Well, they do
Berman,
tolerate it.
I just have to upload them. But
I've really got to make the decision if I want to go back and tolerate that again.
Meanwhile, everybody should go out and buy lottery tickets. It's $1.55 trillion. Billion dollars. Not trillion.
Billion.
So I'm off by a decimal point, or is it 100 decimal points? Anyway, it's you wouldn't have to do art fairs for a few years if you or you could continue doing art fairs for a few years if you won.
God, yeah, you need a psychiatrist.
Hey, you could afford the $400 a night room at the plaza.
I know. You could, in fact, you could have rooms for everybody, all your friends. Hey, I booked a suite of these $400 a night hotel rooms, and it's catered. We're catering it.
I got to tell you, if I ever win the lottery like that, nobody will know.
yeah, you should never put it in an email, by the way.
There's something about transparency. I don't think you can be.
All
if it's a
right.
certain amount of money, you can't. You have to declare.
State to state, you don't have to claim it, but you have the right not to say who somebody claimed the prize, but they cannot tell your name.
Now you don't have to claim the prize right away. You can go 6 months without it. In fact, they expect people not to reveal themselves or not to declare, because they expect you, if you make that kind of money or any kind of decent money, you're going to go out and get a team of lawyers. You're going to get a tax accountant, a tax lawyer.
About $1.5 billion.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get a whole slew of people, and you're going to love paying for it because they're going to save you money in the long run.
Well, your doorbell's going to be ringing, and people are going to be knocking on your doors because they're going to find your address on the internet, and they're going to be standing there. Hi, you remember me?
I'm moving first.
Eighth cousin.
I'm moving.
Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it'd be good.
Go away. In fact, I would intend to spread it around. He says that now, but not to anybody who asked me for the money. That would be the one thing. You want something from me? Don't ask me. That'll disqualify you. God, that would be annoying.
Yeah. Well, I gotta go. So on that note, thanks everybody. It's been a good
Sure.
time. I'll see you next week.
Sure.
Yeah. See
Later.
ya.
I'm going to head out too.
Hey, Barry,
Larry.
yeah, I'm gonna stop recording.